Swagatam Suswagatam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyanti Mirandasya Gananjara Sharakaya Shakshu Militam Yena Tashmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Shvapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupa Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sam Jivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Gadan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Shikratpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchane Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshvari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare. So let's debrief this closed book a little bit. So you did quite well. Vignesh did wonderfully well, as usual. Basically, as I told you, we are analyzing the aim of knowledge and recall. That's dealing with knowledge aims. So obviously we want precision as far as possible. We can always ramble on, but the main thing is to stick to the chapter and to be right on the tee, right on what pertaining to the particular chapter within that particular section, that's ideal. This way you get lots of marks. Okay, so I'm just going to deal with wherever you missed out a little bit. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, oftentimes Goloka Nanda Devi, let's see. You answer, but not very precise. See, this is see, because what I do when I mark, you have to understand. Like you're only two, there are only two students, so it's very simple. I have to mark one according to the other. So if I give, for instance, 4 points to Vignesh, let's say on the why the Gita, it's meant to be a river of nectar, but actually it's a river of blood. So, I find myself with Vignesh was giving like a tons of information, which are quite pertinent, So obviously, he gets 4 points, he gets maximum points. And since you get a little less, I mean, far more less in one sense, you get only 3 points, It goes like this. When you mark, you have to take into account the batch of the students. Now you're only 2, but let's say you were 20, it would be the same approach. you mark according to the other students who participated. Yeah. So, I mean, you answered, you got 3 points, but you didn't really develop much. Now, why is it called Akim Akulvata? Why does Dhritarashtra mention that? So obviously, you mentioned Dhritarashtra is anxious about what's going on the battlefield. Therefore, he inquires from Sanjaya about his son, whether they are ready for the war. He's inquiring from Sanjaya, who received to see the battlefield by, see, you are going off a tangent here. So it's a very good example, Goloka. That doesn't add up anything to the question. He got, mystic power from Vyas, his guru. That doesn't add up anything to the question at all. So, in that sense, that's why you tend to get less points. Okay, so let's see. 3. Yes, signs of victory. Obviously, you came up with 3. There were 5 points. So obviously, if you had given, like Vignesh gave, actually, Vignesh gave 4, and there were 5. So you got 1 point per sign of victory, basically. Then the Pancha Sanshaya, that was quite straightforward. Vignesh got 10 points. Yeah, you got 7, Goloka. So same story, you don't develop as much as he. For instance, destruction of dynasty. By killing the man, women will be polluted and unwanted children will be born, which will cause destruction of family. You could have added to that there will be cessation of Jatikul, and all the community welfare will stop altogether. The youngsters won't be trained up. By death of the elders will be missing out. There's more to say. So automatically you get a little less point. You understand? Goloka?
Yeah.
Yeah. So remember, in that particular exam, we are dealing with knowledge and recall. Even though it's not all in all, we know, but part of Bhakti Shastri is to be able to recollect data. We're not dealing with personal application, preaching application. These are essay topics. Here we're dealing with knowledge and recall, the faculty to bring to the surface very precise information. So what's wrong with infamy, since fame is material? This is chapter 2. Yeah, obviously, same story, Vignesh got much more information. This is the problem when you are co-working with a very good student. It stands out. I have to admit, this is in that particular pair of yours. This is what happens all the time, because it wouldn't be fair on my side to give the same amount of points, because I can see his answers are much more lofty. Now, I mean, we are just cutting hair a little bit here. Now, I want to get into something more important, I would say. 38, 39. In one sense, Gita starts here. Srila Prabhupada said so in one class as well as Buddha Prabhu. Why is that? There's a major shift here. There's a break in the flow of the philosophy. So basically, the Lord shifts the subject here. from Sakam Kama Yoga to Nishkam Kama Yoga, to Nishkamya, basically, and Buddhi Yoga. So fight for the sake of fighting, because he desires the battle. Basically, Krishna desires the battles. So Arjun should do that without considering the results. Then there would be no sin involved. So here, Vignesh, you're also guilty of rambling on in 241, you know. There was no need. You know, you just put 241 in the picture, Vyavasmiti Buddhi Ekya Kurundana. It's nice, but it's us besides the point. I wanted something strictly on 38, 39. So here you got only 4 points. Okay, so 238, actually there were 2 questions on 238. So actually it was a question of Chandra. Why is it that only by acting, in this case, fighting for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, that one incurs no sin? This principle applies to everyone and for every action. If so or not so, please explain. So here, Vignesh is saying, yes, this principle applies to everyone, but not for every action. What is action? Inaction and forbidden action. Same story, you know, you bring the 4th chapter. So you know what I'm saying? You know, in that particular type of exam, you have to stick to your gun, stick to what's under scrutiny. Alors, you said, work done without attachment to fruits under the purview of the Vedas are said to be a karma. Only such actions incur no sinful reactions. Yes, but better still, Nishkam Kama Yoga, when you act for the pleasure of Krishna. That's even, basically there's 2 types of Nishkam Kama Yoga. There is a Nishkam Kama Yoga where you are totally detached from the fruits. You may be a full-fledged Brahmavadi, impersonalist. And there is the Nishkam Kama Yoga that we want. Yat Karoshi, Yat Asnasi, Yat Joshi, Yat 927. Whatever you do, Mother Panam, do it as an offering to me. That's the one we want. We don't want only the one pertaining to cessation of the fruits by dint of detachment. That's not good enough. Okay. You stop me if you want to throw some, you know, if you want to share some things. Or...
I'm also recollecting what I wrote.
Sorry?
I'm also recollecting what I wrote. It's been a long time.
Yeah, true. It was like early March or something. Yeah. Took me a while to correct. Yeah, you're right. Anyway, basically, Goloka, bear in mind that I told you already, but the pass mark is 65. So you're running a little short when it comes to closed book, because you got 60% on your in the ratio, and you got 6158. So try to next closed book, try to compensate. Because I had one student recently, she performed quite well. But what happened is she kind of failed the closed book, you know. Much more, I mean, nothing like you are very close to the passing mark, but she was like way down, 20%, 30%. So that at the end of the day, what happened, she scored well, you know, good essays and all, but I could not manage to let her pass because she was way down, way below 65% average on the closed book. So she ended up she's basically what I told her, you just freelance, you just sit for all the 5 closed book that you failed, that you flunked, you sit for those, you know. So that's why I'm saying I'm talking of experience. You are a little behind the average of 65. So make sure you, before the end of Bhakti Shastri, you catch up, compensate on getting better marks on the next one, so you can compensate, because the average will be 65. Okay, so here, oh yes, this is Goloka here. We are in chapter 3. Is renunciation good enough? Why not? No, well, not this one, the one after. From 4 to 9 in the third chapter, Lord Krishna is pushing Nishkam Karma, which combines two things. What are those things? It's an equation, A plus B equals C. A is Atmagyan, and you wrote control of the senses, Goloka. No. Atmagyan, Atma Tatwa, knowledge that we are not the body, plus, you did right, devotional service to the Lord means Nishkam Karma Yoga. So here you lost, a little point. Yeah, sometimes you totally got it wrong altogether. Like, for instance, tell us about the impediments of calm at the end of the third chapter. You started to ramble about karma. I was expecting calm, lust. Tell us about the impediments of calm at the end of the third chapter. And there were 6 points here. So you totally answered karma binds us to the material world in the cycle of birth and death. There's 84 lakh species of life. It's totally off the point. The end of the third chapter is calm, how to deal with calm, lust. So I'm saying, you have to be able to pinpoint exactly, this is the matter, the faculty to go and grab wherever it belongs. The particular chapter, the particular section within the chapter. Yeah, so now this is chapter 5. Why Karma Yoga is better than Jnana Yoga? Here you made a mistake again, Goloka, quite a severe mistake if you ask me. You wrote Karma Yoga is acting in fruitive activities by following the rules and regulations of the Vedas. That's not Karma Yoga. This is Karma Kand. You are confusing Karma Kand and Karma Yoga. Karma Kand means you are fruitive, but at least you follow the purview of the Vedas. For the sake of fulfilling your desires, you resort to Karma Kand. Karma Yoga, as soon as you hear the name Yoga, it means there's a connection with the Absolute. It's very simple. Whether it be Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. Now, Karma Yoga can be twofold. It can be Sakam Karma Yoga. You are quite attached to the fruits and even to the action itself. And gradually, as you get purified, you become Nishkam Karma Yoga. In other words, you are no more attached to the fruits, Nishkam. You may still be attached to the action itself, but you're no more attached to the fruits. And even better so, if you can offer part or full fruits, whole fruits to Krishna, that's transcendental Karma Yoga, basically. So here you mixed up the two. So, it doesn't look well in such a type of question when you mix up big concept like this, you know. You wrote in chapter 5, 4 and 5, you wrote Karma Yoga, they are fruitive workers. No, Karma Kanda are fruitive workers. So you kind of mixed up the two, you know, they are fruitive workers and they act in Krishna consciousness and gradually elevate themselves in devotional service to Vishnu. I think you have to get it right on this. We cannot say that a Karma Yogi is a fruitive worker. Or otherwise, you have to be very precise. You say, well, someone who has some connection with the absolute, because yoga is there, and is still attached. So then you call him Sakam Kama Yoga. Sakam means he still have desires, you know. Yeah, I think that's it. And for Vignesh, yeah, at one point, but again, you answered very nicely after the. I was expecting premature jag in the 6th chapter. Actually, this is 6th or 5th. Let's see. This is. But you discussed about it later, so in one sense, you knew. And premature child. What is the danger? And I was expecting that. My question was, this is the 5th chapter. Why? What's the Lord? What is the Lord? Why is the Lord saying in 5:3? Dvivida Nishta. This is the key theme of the Bhagavad-gita. What is it then? It is saying Dvivida Nishta. So you answered, yes, there are two key types of yoga, which in which yogis generally put faith on. Jnana Yoga through Sankhya, which explained earlier in 211, 230, okay? Karma Yoga, Buddha Yoga. Arjuna was confused. He thought that karma and jnana are not compatible. Thus, to resolve the confusion of Arjuna, Krishna will now explain Karma Yoga in further detail in chapter 3. Krishna basically explained Nishkam Karma Yoga and tells that Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga are actually non-different. This is good. Yeah. Anyway, did you find it difficult, Goloka? You have to tell me. Honestly, perhaps, you know, I have also to tune up if need be for the next one. Is it too difficult or what? Tell me. You know, we have to be on the same page. Huh? You have to tell me honestly if it's with. Is it you felt unprepared or just tell me?
I think doing 6 chapters at a time, it's just we will do.
No, the time, don't worry about the time. I'm never, that's one of my, I would say, good side. I don't, basically about the time, I'm quite loose. You have noticed, I can give you even sometimes 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Did you feel penalty because of the time constraint? Because remember, oftentimes I'm busy, I just let you finish on your own and you send me off the paper.
Yeah.
So it's not really my, you know, I'm not really pushy for this. How did you find it, Vignesh?
Questions were okay for me. It was just lengthy, but since you gave extra time, then it was manageable.
Okay. One thing is chapter 4. Kamabir nasa badyate. 4:14, remember? What makes us so transcendental that we become also unaffected by the fruits of work? Remember? Namam kamani limpanti, Krishna says in 4:14. I escape. I'm not affected by the fruits at all. Someone who knows that about me, he also escapes. So my question was, what makes us so transcendental that we can also escape? Kamabir Nasabhadyate. So Vignesh answered, it means one becomes free from the reactions of activities. This is only possible when we are not affected by the pleasant and unpleasant situations. When we attain a state of equanimity, we see everything on equal footing. By controlling the senses and working as an offering to Krishna, that results in no reactions. In such a situation, one is not entangled and becomes free from all the material conceptions of life. Yeah, so basically, if whatever Krishna does is without reaction, what to speak, whatever Krishna desires is also without reaction. So therefore, it goes without saying that acting according to his desires makes us also reaction without reaction, makes us also karma free. Anyway. Yeah, here, 418. I was asking kam, vikam, akam. So Vignesh defines the three, great. And then I was asking you, where do you stand? So he's saying, I'm trying to follow the principles of karma. Yes, but I wrote, yes, but which one of the two? Basically, you are a karma. If you work, for the sake of Krishna, you are a karma.
I just wrote under quotation, I'm trying to follow.
I'm trying to follow.
I'm trying.
Yeah, but you stick, at least within that category of a karma, you stick within that somewhere. You may not be 100% a karma, but you are within that register. Yeah, I mean, it takes, I have to admit, it takes memory. Huh? This kind of exam, you perform well if you have a good memory. That's what goes without saying. Anyway. Here, in the 6th chapter, I was asking, remember, is sannyas a question of gender, male or female? Kama sannyas is not a question of gender, Vignesh wrote. It's free from all the designations. However, generally in Vedic times, we find that most of the time sannyas were given to men. However, exceptions do exist in some cases. I never heard of that. I never heard of Vaishnav, at least Tridandi Vaishnav Gaudiya, as females. So do you have anything in mind except Gaudiya?
Not necessarily only Gaudiya Vaishnava. In general, I think I was referring that because there are some, I think even Alvars and some personalities are there who are women, and they were quite, I think they had taken sannyas, but
okay,
it was not a very kind of a normal thing.
Yeah, Alvars, I'm not so aware of the Alvars. Yeah, could be.
I think Andal or something.
Andal, yeah. There was one lady, she ran into the deity and she merged within the deity, actually.
Yeah.
And she was totally in love. She was like a gopi, basically.
Did we not had even in Gaudiya Vaishnava any sannyasi?
Not that I know of.
But from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's line or something? There was some lady, right? She was...
There is basically Gangamata Goswamini. She was the daughter of Gangacharya. Gangacharya was himself a disciple of Narottam Das Thakur. Gangadas or something. So she's called Goswamini, how did I say she was called? Gangamata Goswamini. So perhaps that's one exception I can think of, yeah, Goswamini, because it says Goswamini. But again, the answer was, it's not a question of gender.
Yeah.
Anyway, you performed very well, Vignesh. So Yoloka just try to catch up for this, to compensate, I would say, for the next two. You're gonna have lots of closed book, not really. You're gonna have two more for the guitar. You're gonna have one for the Shlesho, you did. You're gonna have one for NOD, one for Upadeshamrit. So you're gonna have another 4. Okay, so let's move into the 9th chapter. Any recall from last week?
Last week we didn't do Bhagavad-gita.
Oh,
we
yeah,
did
true.
Bhagavatam.
Ram Navami, yeah. Yeah, I was giving the class in the temple also. We have the visit of Chandramuli Maharaj here. You know Chandramuli Maharaj?
Yeah, Chandramuli Swami, I heard of him.
You know him, Goloka?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's here. And we have lots of devotees from the manor, from Soho. They came, big bus. So we're having a good time, spiritual good time. Okay, let's get down to it. So basically, there's 9th chapter is many acharyas, even Srila Prabhupada mentioned, is the most important chapter. I was sharing with you, I think, one French admiral from the Marine. He had the good fortune of meeting Srila Prabhupada, and he was quite enamored, I would say, by Srila Prabhupada. But big post. Admiral is the highest ranking post you can get in the Marine. And Prabhupada told him, what can I do, Swamiji, for you? You just study deeply 9th chapter. So actually, Indradyumna Maharaj mentioned the story. He used to cultivate that person. And one day, after 77, after Prabhupada had departed, wonderful, he happened to meet in some big function in Arc of Triumph. Arc of Triumph is a key monument in Paris. Very famous place. And the guy was there. And Indra Maharaj was distributing books in those days. That's way back in the late 70s. And he recognized him, and the person recognized the Maharaj. In those days, it was not, or perhaps freshly sannyas, I forgot. And, they just chatted, and Maharaj was dressed as a sannyasi, in devotee clad. And TV was there, and the admiral would not even give a damn. He was just chatting with his old friend in Rajuna, And at one point, how is Swamiji? How is Guruji? And Indrananda Maharaj told him, he's gone. He's gone. And the admiral, he broke down crying. Can you imagine? Like a child. He's an admiral. Admiral means very top ranking officer, top officer. He broke down crying. So much he has been impacted by Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada told him, at least 20 years prior to that, he told him, you just study 9th chapter. It's a very important chapter. Raja Guya Yoga, and the most confidential knowledge. So what's the link? What's the link with the 8th chapter? Look at your guitar if need be, if you want to refresh your mind. What's the link? Try to have another overview outlook on the guitar now, because we are midway, 9th chapter. So the beginning chapters of the guitar, what do they deal with? Remember Sankhya Yoga, very beginning of the 2nd chapter?
Yeah. Jnana Yoga.
Yeah, we dealt with Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya means many things. At least 3 different meanings can be applied to Sankhya. But here in this 2nd chapter, it means difference between soul and body. Then obviously chapter 7, beginning of 3, 4, 5, it's Karma Yoga, right? Karma Yoga 4 stands in between 3 and 5 because 3 and 5 basically is a continuation. But why do we have 4 in the middle? Because it's going to give us Gyan, Karma Sannyas, Yoga. What kind of Gyan do we need? Transcendental Gyan, Divya Gyan. What kind of Gyan do we need to make our karma sannyas, to make it reaction free, to make it karma free? So that is why in chapter 4, Krishna is going to reveal himself, to divulge about himself, is in Tattva. Who is he? Why does he come, etc. So more we accrue on transcendental knowledge, more we become detached to the fruits of our actions. Again, A plus B equals C. Atma Gyan, knowledge that we're different from the body, coupled with Nishkam Kama Yoga, since we're not the body, we're not attached, we are doing our duty, right? And even better, we are doing it for the sake of pleasing Krishna. Then it becomes Nishkamya. It becomes Yad Kaloshi, Yadashnashi, 927. 927 is the epitome of Nishkam Kama Yoga. If you want, someone is asking you, what is Nishkam Kama Yoga, my dear friend? 927, finish. So chapter 7 and 8 are more confidential than second chapter because we hear about devotional service, remember? Chapter 7 and 8. And it brings enlightenment in Krishna consciousness, obviously. More we hear about, we're not the body we heard, but now we're hearing about Krishna himself. Chapter 9, why is it most confidential? Because it describes Ananya Bhakti. See? It's no more regular Bhakti, it's Ananya Bhakti. We have seen in chapter 8 that the devotee surpasses any situations whatsoever. Remember, we discussed the Ananya Bhakti. There's a few verses in the 8th chapter with Ananya Bhakti, no doubt. A few, 8:14, 8:21, 22. And we heard this Ananya Bhakti surpasses both. Remember the two paths, the path of light and the path of darkness. They have to choose, the regular yogi, they have to choose at what time they leave the body. But we have discussed in chapter 8 that the Ananya Bhakta surpasses them both. So now Krishna, this is the link. Krishna is going to show us, is going to explain to us what does it take to become such an Ananya Bhakta. This is the link. We have seen in chapter 8, this Ananya Bhakta surpasses everyone else by far. What does it take to become such an Ananya Bhakta? This is 9th chapter. And of course, first verse, and it's very important, Tachrinu. We discussed in 7.1, Tachrinu. Same story. Tachrinu, here, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. And that was one of my questions, by the way. Let's go for verse 1. What is the keynote of verse 191? You can read out.
Yes. Text number 1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence."
Yes. Very good. So what is the key point here? What makes it digestible to the particular candidate? Why is that candidate selected? Because Pravakshyamya Anusuyave. This is the key point. Anusuyave. Anusuyave means
non-envious.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Remember in 111, 112, Nirmatsaranam Satam, Bhagavatam, same story is revealed to Nirmatsaranam Satam, those who are pure and non-envious. This is the key point as a bhakta. This is the only thing you cannot engage in Krishna consciousness. You can engage Kam, Krodh, Lobh. How can you engage envy? No. Envy will make you eliminated from the path of bhakti. This is the most nasty thing, envy. The only thing you cannot engage, you cannot dovetail is envy. So on the other hand, because Arjuna, you're non-envious, I can reveal, you can obtain the most intimate knowledge of the absolute truth by hearing, same story. And of course, we're going to discuss in chapter 2, verse 2, that by the process of devotional service, and it's always the same hammering. Krishna is hammering that point on and on. Bhakti mama bijanati yavanyashasmitadvataha, only by bhakti, only by bhakti. And then we're going to discuss the contrast in 9.3. 9.3 means if you don't do that, then what's going to happen to you? If you don't listen carefully without envy, if you are faithless, then this is the outcome, Arjuna, in 9.3. And then it's a big section, which I love. It's one of my favorite sections in the Gita, Eshvayakyan, from 4 to 10. This is a program for today. So, first of all, I think I had given you some extra questions. Let me check. What did I give you? Some extra question. Huh? Let's see. Yeah, if we have time, we'll cover. I gave you some question as if you were a book distributor, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I always do that for the 9th chapter. Anyway, let's stick to the section. Then if we have time, we'll cover those. Okay, so let's get into 9.1. Idam Gyanam, and Idam Gyanam, it's an important term. And this knowledge, here when we say, when we are hearing 9.1 here, Idam Gyanam, it refers to what basically? It refers to transcendental knowledge, actually, pure devotional service. This knowledge, Idam Gyanam means this knowledge, is referring to what? Is referring to what we just heard in the 8th chapter. So remember, it's a conversation. There's no break in the conversation. Srila Vyasadeva has broken it down into chapters, but when they discussed, there was no chapters. It was 45 minutes nonstop. You understand? So when he says here, Idam Gyanam, it's referring to Ananya Bhakti, pure devotional service, which are made of 9 kinds. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. Vigyan Sahitam. It's one thing to know, but it's 2.931, just before the Chatushloki in Bhagavatam. There's a verse, Saharasyam, Vigyan Sahitam. Brahma is speaking, actually. Or perhaps Krishna is speaking to Brahma. Yeah, Krishna is speaking to Brahma. Right before the Chatushloki, 2.931. He's using the same term, Vigyan Sahitam. You have to become Vigyan. What is the difference, Goloka, between Gyan and Vigyan?
Gyan means knowledge and Vigyan means practical knowledge.
Yeah, realization. If I tell my boy, I understood long back already that he burned himself badly one day. He was so young. Now he remembers forever. Sometimes I want to joke, Aritoshan, you want to put the hand in the fire? He will remember for life. This is practical. This is Vigyan. He knows forever. So we have to demonstrate. So in other words, 9.1, there's 3 things to retain here. How do we become advanced? By hearing. Just like 7.1, touch Rinu. Remember? Touch Rinu in 7.1. Same point, just here. And again, Anusuyave. You cannot entertain envy. And By the way, if you want to hear properly, you have to be non-envious. Otherwise, after some time, you just get up and leave. You become sick and tired of hearing so much Krishna Katha. No. And the result, Yash Gyatva Mokshase Shubat. You become free from material miseries. When you hear properly and you put it into practice, of course, application. 9.2.
This knowledge is the king of education, the most secrets of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, is the perfection of religion, is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed.
Yeah. By the way, this is one of your key verse. You have to learn by heart, if I'm not mistaken. So this is loaded. This verse is loaded, replete with Gyan, with transcendental knowledge. What do we hear? If we break it down, it's a long, long purport. What do we hear? Raja Guyam. Guyam means?
Confidential.
Confidential. Huh? Raja Vidya means, it's a king of, we should not be afraid and ashamed to say that, yes, Bhakti Yoga is the top yoga. There's no question. 647. Yoginam apisavesham bhagyatanantaratmana. Very clear. Krishna says, of all the yogis, one is very intimately united with me. His thoughts totally absorbed in me, is by far the greatest. This is my conviction. This is my opinion. Raja Vijay, Raja Guyam, Pavitram. Pavitram?
Pure.
Yes. And I was asking you, to describe, Prabhupada is quoting Padma Puran here. It's mentioned, we're going to discuss that verse in thoroughly in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. But briefly, we can touch it. I ask you about these things, Aparadam Phalam Papam. Someone wants to venture between the two of you to explain very briefly. We don't want to spend the whole hour. We're going to discuss in the electoral devotion. What is the first? How does it germinate as the pap and the scene, the action itself? But where does it start from? Does it come down to action immediately?
First, it is because of ignorance we develop a desire.
Very good. Yeah.
And then everything starts.
Exactly. Third canto explained there's different types of ignorance. Avidya. Ignorance about ourselves, our constitutional position, ignorance about God, ignorance about Prakriti, how does it function, the mechanisms of Prakriti. We are totally ignorant, totally. It's mentioned by Kapil, or Brahma perhaps, I think it's Brahma, 5 layers of ignorance. So, of course, it's third canto, I don't want to go into that, but it's very deep. 5 layers, can you imagine? 5 layers of ignorance. 5 layers. So then, avidya, then number 2?
Then we desire, then basically because of a desire, there are some unmanifest reactions which come, like this verse mentions, aprarabdha, which doesn't manifest in this lifetime. Maybe it will manifest later. It's not perceptible for now. But then there is aprarabdha, unmanifest. But then comes kutam, which mentions there is some proclivity to do some kind of, the psychological disposition is there to do the sin. It's very subconscious, very dormant. But then it is not, we are not a desire yet, but since the proclivity is there. And finally, when we desire, actually, it's like a bija. The seed is now sown. And finally, we get the reaction like tarabdha, like phala unmukha, just waiting to take effect.
Exactly. Vishnu Bhakti Ratatmanam, whichever stage you are at in the progress, in the germination of just like a flower or a seed germinates in the soil, becomes a plant, then a flower will sprout, then a fruit, it will grow. So in the same way, whichever state you are at, then Vishnu Bhakti Ratatmanam, sequentially, it will be destroyed, provided you do proper Vishnu Bhakti, wholeheartedly. Yeah. So anyway, we'll go into that very deeply. You will see in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So it's a very deep verse, Pratyakshavagamam dharmyam. What's the meaning of that? Pratyakshavagamam dharmyam.
It's about the soul.
Yeah,
About
we
the
have
self,
direct perception of the soul.
direct perception of the soul.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you must be having realizations on this very early in your Krishna consciousness, even matter of hours or even days. You know, you perceive, yes, this is the reality. This is the absolute truth. I'm in touch with the absolute truth. Didn't you have that? I mean, very early in your spiritual life, you understand this is it.
Yeah.
I remember there was one devotee when I joined. In those days, they had a chateau north from Paris, a little north, like 50, 60 kilometers. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. This chateau used to belong to Jean-Jacques Rousseau. It's a great 17th century philosopher. ISKCON, one way or the other, was attempting to buy, but it was a colossal chateau. And Bhagavan ended up having a lease on the chateau. Lease means you pay, and at the end of the day, it becomes yours, but he left anyway, so the whole thing collapsed. But anyway, I remember I was kind of hanging out already, 84. There was one devotee, Pundarik Prabhu, and I remember still today, I mean, he would chant, and I was like, just a guest, you know, coming and watching, basically. And I had the impression of being swallowed in his mouth. It was an amazing feeling. He has such a big mouth. When he would chant, you know, loud, he was the leader of the group. I had the impression to be swallowed in his mouth. You know, it's like, and I was feeling, I mean, this person has got mystical power. So I was totally, I remember I was like electrified practically. I would go home, I was in trance. I don't know if he's still around. He was proper disciple. His name was Pundarik. In those days, lots of American devotees in France, you know.
Pundarik?
Yeah, you know him?
Yeah, he has a wife from Europe.
Oh,
His ex-wife.
I was a new kid on the block, you know, so I mean 84, and I remember him. Bhagavan left in 86, everyone kind of left also, you know. So, but I remember I had this feeling I was kind of swallowed in the sound vibration. You know, such a guy.
Yeah, Pundarik, yeah, American, his wife is
American fellow, I remember.
And his wife was a European lady.
Oh, I don't remember any details, you know. I was, as I said, you know, brand new guy. So, Pratyaksha, directly, Avagamam Dharmyam. Then, Susukamka Tumavyayam, what's the meaning of that?
Joyfully performed.
Yeah, I mean, it's joyfully and easy. Kapil Dev in 3:25-26 is saying, Rijubi. Rijubi means very easy. I mean, it's simply in one sense, you know. You just sit and hear. There's one mayor. I live in the city here. I mean, this tiny village, 1,500, perhaps 1,500 inhabitants. And the mayor, his name is Bruno. The guy met Srila Prabhupada. Can you imagine? He must be in his late 50s now. He met Srila Prabhupada. Can you imagine? He came, he was like a kid, he was a teenage boy. And in those days, ISKCON opened in 73, 74, way back. There was, what's his name? Harivilas from Seattle. He was here in those days in France, and he was having spiritual sky, you know, the incense. And they had a factory right across ISKCON. It belonged to, in those days, it belonged to ISKCON. They were rolling the incense. So the young boy was working there, and Prabhupada came on the lawn. There's a big lawn here. And he listened to Srila Prabhupada. Then now he's a mayor. You know, and when you speak to him, he says, well, I'm a 50-50, you know, 50 Kami, 15 devotee. He's a nice guy. You say Haribol. He's the mayor of the city. He knows he's not a fool. Everyone is voting for him for the last 40 years. I mean, at least 10 years, 20 years. So he's very favorable to the devotee. He gets all the votes of the devotees. We are at least 50, 100 here. So he gets all, and each time he just keep on being reelected. But at the same time, he's quite favorable. He's helping us to get permit to construct houses on the premises of his time. You know why? He told me himself, because he heard Srila Prabhupada. Very simple. He just heard. I don't even know if he chants, but he just heard. He was 14, 15. But that made the job. You know. Avyayam means it's not only this life, next life, different planets. You go on Brihaspati, you go on different Brahman, you go back to the spiritual world, still, you still practice the same, no change. Shraddha Shabde Vijasa Kohe Sudida Nischoy. This is Shraddha. Shraddha means we are convinced that that itself in one stroke, you fulfill all the other obligations of your life. By sticking to Krishna consciousness, it fulfills all the other requirements in one sense. Okay, so let's move on to, you just stop me if you want to delve further in a particular aspect of the verse. Feel free to intervene. But here, each and every word of two are quite loaded. And be aware of that. It may come up in the exam. 9.2. 9.3 is the contrast. What is it in 9.3? Please read out.
Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world.
Yeah. So this is the contrast. Krishna is a very good pedagogue. He will never force the student to, he will not twist his arm to make him act as he wishes. No, this is the contrast. Do as you wish, my friend. You're not faithful, samsara. As simple as that. Mrityu samsaravatmani. Nivartante, you have to come back. That's the price to pay. There's a price to pay. This is, people don't realize they want to get away with murder. There's a price to pay. And Srila Prabhupada is very, I don't know if you noticed the purport of Sri. He's giving an insight on the mentality of a fledgling devotee. Did you notice? I had asked you a question on Sri. What does he say in Sri? Yes, what does Srila Prabhupada say about the Kanishta in Sri in regard to Karma Yoga? Very interesting. He has a particular slant, Srila Prabhupada, here in Sri. What does he say about Karma Yoga? See, it's very interesting because Srila Prabhupada, he can interspace the terms. Sometimes he's going to give one particular meaning to Karma Yoga, but here, look at how he speaks about Karma Yoga in Sri. Did you notice? He kind of put it down. Sometimes he may equate Karma Yoga with Bhakti Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. We have seen that in the second chapter. But here, how does it relate to Karma Yoga? Did you notice? What does he say?
Basically refers like Kanishtadhikari sometimes mix up like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga. They are not very faithful towards Bhakti Yoga as a soul process. Yeah. So they sometimes take up Karma Yoga, they feel interested, but then again, they don't practice Bhakti Yoga wholeheartedly. Their faith is lacking. So that's why they're Kanishta.
Yes. It's very interesting because I don't know if you noticed, you must have noticed from the beginning of the Gita that very often times Srila Prabhupada equates Karma Yoga and Buddhi Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Did you notice those three terms? Huh? But here he doesn't. Listen to that. Sometimes this third class person, Kanishna, in Krishna consciousness, have some tendency towards karma yoga and jnana yoga, and sometimes they are disturbed. But as soon as the infection of karma yoga, say he's putting infection, means it's not a good thing, it's not a pure thing as yet, or jnana yoga is vanquished, they become second class or first class persons. Very interesting. Huh? We can see Prabhupada, he has his own personality. So that is why we have to know the purpose quite well. He's not going to use those terms generically, you know. Generically means forever the same meaning. Sometimes he's giving a little twist to the meaning. This is the mood and mission of Prabhupada, by the way. You have to be able to appreciate that. Most of the time he equates the three, Buddha Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, but here, no. So here we can conclude that why is he a bit down on Karma Yoga? Because he's considering Sakam Karma Yoga, most probably. That means you are still the doer. We will discuss very soon in the 5th chapter. Oh, we discussed already in the 5th chapter. We will discuss, yes, actually coming up soon now. In the 9th chapter, we will discuss that there's still a notion of doership. One time, Bodhijan asked us this question: what is the difference between a bhakti yogi and a karma yogi? Because, you know, for an outsider, someone may conclude prematurely, well, actually, the karma yogi is better because he's giving money. The devotee gives nothing. So in one sense, externally, oh, it's better. It's helping the mission. So Bodhijan Prabhu was addressing that. How would you answer? Difference between karma yoga and bhakti yoga.
Isn't it karma yoga? You always ask a favor from Krishna.
Yeah, there's
benediction.
Yes, you expect something in return. In other words, there's still a notion of doership. Krishna, that's mine. I'm giving it to you. Yat karoshi, yadashnasi, yajoshi, dadasyat, yat kurusva madapanam. Do it as an offering. Yes, Krishna, I understood. Please take it with love, even. But there's still a notion of doership. Whereas the Bhakti Yogi, there's no doership. He has given his life, he has given his money, he has given his car, he has given his house. So there's no notion of doership. I'm yours, Krishna. So in that sense, it's much higher. That is why here, Srila Prabhupada creates a distinction. You follow?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's get into that. We are turning a big page here. It's a very exciting section, 4 to 10. Basically, it's called Aishvarya Gyan. Why is it called Aishvarya Gyan?
It talks about the inconceivable energy of the Lord, like Krishna. So how he controls the world, at the same time doesn't control the world.
Exactly. So let's deal into that. It's quite replete with details, I would say. Okay, 9.4.
By me, in my unmanifested form, the entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them.
Okay, so some very interesting terms here. Avyakta Murtina, and we know the term Murti, Murti deity. The deities here are called Radha, Shishirada Govind, Madhav. But it says Avyakta Murtina. What's the meaning of that?
Unmanifested form.
Yes. So how do you explain this verse? By me, right? When it says by me, it refers by my Avyakta Murtina, basically. In my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded, okay? All beings are in me, but I'm not in them. So we are dealing with Ashintya Bedabed right here. So what does it mean? Let's try to dissect this verse a little bit. We discussed so many times before, but it's a good reminder. Goloka, you want to venture a little bit?
Can you say by me? Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, by me means in my unmanifested form, by my avyaktamurtina, I pervade, but me, myself, Bhagwan, I'm not there. You follow?
Yeah.
Is somewhere else. Goloka Nivasati Akilat Mabuta, Brahma Samhita. Is in Akilat Mabut? Yes, in everyone's heart, but also is Nivasati means to reside. It dwells in Golok. He's reveling in pastimes of love with the gopis, the gopis, etc. Uddhav. So by me, yes, because what is the verse? 1 to 11? Advayagyan, remember?
Yeah.
It's
I remember when, that vaguely about, like the king, he gives a law, he has the laws and everybody is following the laws, but the king is not present there. This one analogy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why is Ishvarya Gyan good? Is it good? First of all, is it necessary? Why? Lord Krishna has put it in the Gita. Is it important? Is it just optional? What's the good of it? What is the benefit of Ishvarya Gyan?
It is important because first we should understand about Aishwarya Gyan of Krishna. Only then we can enter into the other aspects of Madhurya and all other things, because this Aishwarya can help us strengthen our faith.
Exactly.
Only then we can proceed further.
Exactly. Burijan Prabhu used to tell us Aishvarya Gyan breeds Dasya Bhakti. See? Aishvarya Gyan breeds Dasya Bhakti. And Dasya Bhakti is visible in all the rasas. Shrimati Radharani herself is Mula Prakriti, okay? But she's still in the mood of Dasya Bhakti.
Servant, eh?
Servant. Even Lord Balaram, the Supreme Personality of Servitor, Godhead. So Aishvarya Gyan breeds Dasya Bhakti. Just like in the dollar we trust. You look at the dollar, in God we trust. Prabhupada used to say that they don't even know whom to trust. They don't even know him per se. How can they trust him? So first understand his power. So we say here 9.4, by me. Because remember, it's Advayagyan. Vadanti tadva vidas tadva miyash gyanam advayam brahmeti paramat meti bhagwaniti shabdyate. We shouldn't be thinking, oh, this is the different parts of the absolute truth. No, it's Advayagyan. It's non-dual. So you can say by me. By me, yes, because this Avyakta Mutina belongs to him, even though he himself, again, is reveling in pastimes of love. So in other words, the creation rests in Krishna, on Krishna, I would say. But he himself is not in the creation. Sa ekshata, we say it in Sanskrit, sa ekshata. The glance is going to bring about the multi-sequential unfolding reaction of the material creation, Shrishti Tattva. So by me, it's not wrong when he says by me, because Shakti Matayo Abeda, is not different from his Shaktis. Is not different, but it is also different. Achintya Bedabed. So what is the lesson as a devotee? We could say, okay, I understand, thank you. But what does it mean in daily life? What does it mean as a devotee on a very regular basis? When we look at this world, I look at this, some gardens out there, In other words, nothing is separate from Krishna. This is the lesson. Because otherwise it becomes a bit impersonalistic. Well, he's not here, I might as well to hell with everything. That is why Srila Prabhupada says, Vivekananda and Ramakrishna, I've sent Bengal to hell. You know this one?
Mhm.
He said, Vivekananda and Ramakrishna, I've sent Bengal to hell. Why? Why? Because what kind of philosophy did they promulgate? Did they?
Oh, my body,
Yeah, impersonalistic.
personalist.
So that is, Prabhupada is very down to earth. He said Calcutta was a gem. The Britishman used to say, after London, this city is the most beautiful city in the world. Calcutta is not an old city. It was built by the British, basically. It's basically 300 years old, not more than that. Nothing to do with Hinduism, basically. It was built by the British. It was a gem. Prabhupada explained. Huh? And look at Calcutta now. Prabhupada said it's the anus of the planet. You know that? He was born there. He said this is the anus. Who destroyed Calcutta? Is it the Brits? No, the Bengalis. Because they have been severely polluted by those two, Vivekananda and Ramakrishna. Nothing, what the hell should we bother? Why even cleaning the place? This is not the perception of the devotee. Okay, by me, in my Vyaktamurtina means I have to take care. I have to take care. Because basically it's not different. It's not separated. Shakti Matayo Abid. All this earth, water, fire, all the jeeves and the plans, the directions, and so it's an expansion of Krishna. This is a good philosophy. It exists within the body of the Lord. So then we offer our sincere respect to the Vishvam, to the universe. It's basically the entire expansion of the Lord's body. You want to add up anything, Vignesh?
Yeah, I was just thinking there are two kinds of people. There are some people who appreciate the nature, but they don't realize the creator of the nature.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of people, environmentalists, they appreciate the nature, but they don't understand the God, the creator. And others, there are some devotees, maybe a neophyte one, who can appreciate the presence of God, but they don't realize how God is pervading all the nature. So it's like creating a balance. So God is immanent, He's present in the nature, at the same time He's outside the nature. So I think that is what Krishna is explaining. So God is like some pantheist thing. God has diffused in this nature and He's no more existing as separate personality, but then God exists at the same time He's also in the nature.
Yes, very good point. We should not fall into the trap of pantheisms. You understand pantheisms? Because if you're not careful with those verses, just imagine those verses without the purport of Srila Prabhupada. We may easily misconstrue them, isn't it? Like a pantheist, what is the drawback of pantheisms? In the light of those, yes, but what does it mean? Pantheisms, he has spread himself so thin, he doesn't exist anymore. He's out there in his creation. Mayam tatamidam salvam. Yes, I understand. I'm a pantheist, I understand this verse. He has spread out everywhere so thin that he doesn't exist anymore. He's there in his creation. He's not different. No. They befool themselves because is within and without. Ashintya bed, abed. Just like if you tear a page in tiny pieces, you scatter them all in the wind, they all fly away, they're gone. Doesn't the paper itself is gone, doesn't exist. Krishna may, his energies are, Ashintya Shakti are multifarious Parasya Shakti Vedeva Shriyati Svabhaviki Jnanabala Kriyacha. Sequentially, these energies are acting out, transforming themselves, and they account for the creation of the universe, yes, but he himself, Bhagwan, is also elsewhere. Is non-different, yes, just like the heat and the light, non-different from the sun, but within the sun, Vivashwan, Suryadev, and Suranarayan, they're having their own activities within the sun, independently of the actions of the sun, light, and sun heat. You follow? So
Yes.
it's Ajincha Bed. This is our philosophy. We should never bulge an inch from that. Even way before Mahaprabhu, Krishna is already revealing Achintya Bed, Abed, right here. This is combination of two energies. Yes, we have discussed in 7.6. Krishna says, I'm the source behind para and apara prakriti also. I'm behind. So that accounts for the Avyakta Murtina, yes, but he himself is elsewhere. Okay, 9.5.
Yeah. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not a part of this cosmic manifestation. For myself is the very source of the creation.
Yes, now we're getting into the thick of it. Getting more apparently contradictory here. What is the apparent contradiction, Goloka? There's a contradiction.
A contradiction?
Yes, I see one. Compared to 4, there's a contradiction in 5.
He said, the contradiction is everything that is created does not rest in me.
Yes, and in 4, what did he say? Everything is in me.
In me.
And that doesn't rest in me. Carry on.
Yeah, and and that's the main contradiction.
Yeah.
He is not like
So how can
he said, I think
yes, go ahead.
that created doesn't rest in me. Then he's aloof from everything, but at the same time he's there.
This is a very good word. Is aloof. Very good word. Pashyame yogameshvaram. Pashyame. Behold, Arjun, part my yogameshvaram. This is yogameshvaram. Pashyame. This is Eshvarya Gyan. We're going to be in awe and reverence, no doubt, when you see the superpower of Lord Krishna. You cannot avoid but to be awed by it. And reverential. I mean, no, even a devotee, especially at the level of Vedic Bhakti as we are, there's no harm, there's no shame to bow down, And yes, as we grow in Tattva, we will become appreciate Lila better. It goes first. Tattva goes first. In Tattvataha, in depth. So that is why it is there. It is here, sorry. Everything is under Krishna's order. Remember? Yasya, what is that verse? Yashakshu esha savita sakala grahanam yasya gyaya brahmati sambrita kala chakro. Only by the order of God, they are afraid. Even the sun, they're afraid. There's some trace of fear, definitely. They know. We cannot fool around. We have to do our job. The orbits, the seasons, they're afraid. This is Vedic Bhakti also for them. Eshvarya Gyan is there. It breeds Dasya Bhakti. Yes, they're doing a good job because they know. They know we are accountable. We have to be accountable to him. So it reinforces, these verses reinforces that point. Everything is under Krishna's order. But yet, and this is inconceivable, yet the Jiv, even though his Anuatma is tiny, 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 still he has independence. Krishna will not interfere with the independence. This is amazing. Nadate kasachit papam nacheva sukritam vibhuhu, 5:15. I don't accept your pap, Arjun. Your piety has nothing to do with me. So it's quite amazing. Everything is under his order, yet it will not interfere with the tiny, tiny independence of the Jiva. Someone wants to add up anything on this one? This is a very interesting section.
I think it correlates with the Ishopanishad words, right? Like
yes.
Krishna, where Krishna explains that Lord is fixed in one place. At the same time, he runs, his mind runs more swifter than anything else and provides to everything, although being in one place. It's like inconceivable Achinta Bheda Bhed.
Exactly. And even to make it even more subtle, we could say, one may say that the Lord is there in all the devotees, right? In all living entities, basically. But we could say he's not really there with the non-devotees, isn't it? Remember 929? Remember? Of course, we haven't covered it, I know. Samoham savebhuteshu named vishustina priyaha. In other words, beginning he says, well, I'm equal to all. I don't despise anyone. I don't love anyone. I don't hate anyone. But then he goes, but whoever is a friend, I'm a friend. Otherwise, I'm just partial. I'm just impartial. Udasinavat, we'll discuss in 9.9. I'm just like an high court judge, seated as the neutral. I'm just standing there. 1323. Upadrashta Anumantacha Bhakta Bhukta Mahesh Varaha. I supervise, I witness, I consent, but I don't prefer anyone. But 929. If you become a friend, Arjun, then I'm going to act differently. So, in other words, one may say that the Lord is in the hearts of all the jivas, okay? But is not in one sense with the non-devotees. Is in the hearts, yes, of all the jivas as a super soul, but still is not attached to them. Now, be careful here. When he says he's not attached to them, he's aloof, like Goloka is saying. But remember, is it true in the case of devotees? Aham bhakta paradino. You know that verse? In the 9th canto. Aham bhakta paradino. Sadunam hridayam mayam. Sadavam hridayam twaham. I'm always in the heart of my pure devotees. They're always in my heart. I know nothing but them. Durvas Muni is going to Vaikunth to plead for his liberation, to plead for his being scorched by the heat of the Sudarshan Chakra, chasing him, please, my Lord, chase me. Aham bhakta paradino. No, I'm not independent. Even though he says in 111, Svarat, I began Svarat, I'm supremely independent. Then in 9th chapter, he says, Aham bhakta, no, I'm not independent. I'm dependent on the will of my devotees. So it's getting more complicated now. In other words, he's not attached to non-devotees. Yes, 9.4, 9.29. But in the case of the devotees, he's attached to them. That's the difference. Just like, you have seen yourself, if you are sitting somewhere, but your mind is not there, actually, you're not sitting there. You are sitting where your mind is sitting, isn't it? So similarly, the Lord's mind is not on the non-devotees. He's not with them in that sense. He's totally 1323. He's totally neutral. 9:9, Udasinavad, seated as though neutral, like a judge. But the sadhus are in Krishna's heart, and Krishna is in the sadhu's heart. Sadhunam hridayam mayam. I don't know anything but them. They don't know anything but me. So this is very interesting. He's situated everywhere, but actually he's not really situated, really speaking, because he's only with his pure devotees, because he's independent, you know. And basically he's situated only where he's welcome. There's one saying in French: you don't stay somewhere where you're not welcome. You don't stay in a place where the people don't like you. It applies to Lord Krishna also. He's not going to leave the place altogether, but he's going to remain there as a Paramatma only. He wants to be loved, and he wants to reciprocate with that love. That is why in the Gita, Krishna is against those who torture the super soul. Remember in the 17th chapter, giving troubles to themselves, torturing their body, torturing the super soul. This is asuric. So to please his devotees, this is the name of the game. He enjoyed pastimes with his devotees. Fighting even, doesn't matter. Whatever it takes. Jai Vijay, Viryaras, no problem. Even Hiranyakashipu, no problem. He wants to enjoy Viryaras, but with his devotees. Ravan even, Kumbhakarna, they are devotees. We have to remember the bigger picture. So he maintains the material world, he glances at material energy, but he creates and destroys the material world. But here, 9.5, Bhuta Brinna cha Bhuta Sto. See? He maintains everyone. Bhuta Bhavanaha, you know, is the source of all manifestations. And then Nachamatstani Bhutani 9.5, everything that is created doesn't rest in me. So everything rests in his energy. This is the answer. But he's not directly concerned. He's aloof. Simply by his will, Satya Sankalpa, that's one of the name of Lord Krishna. Simply by his will, things are done. Everything is done on the spot. So when he says Pashyame Yogameshwaram, we have to understand that. You know. Do you follow?
Yes, Prabhu.
Goloka?
Yeah.
So let's hear Jiva Goswami on this one.
What?
Paramatma Sandarbha. These are deep, and these are very deep verses. You can go deep, deep, deep. Huh? This is Jiva Goswami. We should understand that it is not that the Lord is forced in some ways to associate with the living entities. See? He's liking the devotees and not liking the non-devotees is not forced. It is his own will. He's not under anything or anyone's influence. It is his nature. Therefore, the explanation that Lord comes for the pleasure of his devotees remains strong. Yes. In the Gita 9.4 and 5, all living entities are situated in me, but are not in them. He has no business being there. Why should he be he? Why should he be? He's there, but he's not there as well. Just like in the Chatur Shloki. He's there, he's not there. He's there in the creation, he's not there. Jiva Goswami carries on. The living entities are also not in me. This is my mystic power. Everything is in me, and it is not. I'm in everything and I am not. This is due to attachment and non-attachment. For the devotee is there. For non-devotees is not there. Those who worship me, they are in me and I'm in them. Samoham Savabhuteshu. Jiva Goswami carries on. One explanation is that is there everywhere. And where it is said, I'm not in them, the meaning is that he's not attached to it. You understand? He's not there just because his mind is not there. Another explanation is that actually he's not there and he's there only in his devotees. In non-devotees, he's not there. He says, Mayiteshu Shapyaham, they are in me and I'm in them. For non-devotees, they are not in me and I'm not in them. See, this is the slant of Jiva Goswami, the greatest acharya, philosopher. Of course, he's going to quote Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, you know the verse, the heart of my devotees is actually the place of my residence. Just as I live in Vaikuntha along with Lakshmi Devi, in the same way I live in the heart of my devotees. From this, we can understand he's not in the heart of non-devotees. So this is very interesting. Huh? You follow? The lesson to retain here, we have to stick to Jiva Goswami. That when he says he's not there, it means his heart is not there, his mind is not there. Just like 1042, what is the need, Arjun, for all these detailed questions? Remember? In Vibhuti Yoga, 10th chapter, Krishna is going to list at least 70, 80 Vibhutis. And then Krishna, Arjun, please tell me more, tell me more. And Arjun, Krishna is, what is the need for all this detailed knowledge? By a single fragment of myself, I pervade this entire universe. By a single fragment of myself. This is Paramatma.
I have a question. That means that he said, I'm there, but I'm not there. Means that for the devotee, he's always there.
Exactly.
And for the non-devotees,
for the non-devotees, Paramatma, Bhagavan is not there.
He's not there.
But just a single fragment of himself is there. 1323 is the overseer, he consents, he witnesses. This is 1323. It's very neutral. 99, we're going to come to that. Udasinavat, seated as though neutral, just like a high court judge. And of course, now we're coming to the analogy. Krishna is kind to us. He's going to give an analogy in 9:6. Go ahead.
As the mighty wind blowing everywhere always rests in the ethereal space, known that in the same manner all being rests in me.
Yes. So please explain the analogy then.
It is a wind blowing everywhere.
Yes.
I cannot explain it.
You want to help Vignesh?
The previous two verses, what Krishna mentions, is apparently contradictory.
Yes.
So Krishna is now giving an example to just give a basic clarity on what exactly he told. So just like an example of a wind and the sky. So it looks like wind is there in the sky. At the same time, it is not the case because sky is completely aloof from the wind.
Yes.
So winds, it's like sky is supporting the wind. At the same time, sky is aloof from the wind, movement of the wind. In similar way, Krishna is there in this world. At the same time, is not a part of this world. So just to give that example, understanding is giving this example of this sky and wind.
Exactly. So the wind in the sky is beautiful analogy. Yeah? The cosmic manifestation is in Krishna. Yasya, remember Brahma Samhita? Yasya Yagya, Yasya Agyaya Brahmati Kalat Chakro. The order, by the order of God, they perform their journey, their orbit, they are turning on their orbit, the sun, any planet, by the order Agyaya. Not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. So just like, I remember there was one Mataji, I don't know if you know her, Mahabhav Mataji, in Mayapur. She gave a beautiful analogy. Just like when a person blows into a balloon, it transfers air, right? His energy is transferred into the balloon, but the person remains outside. So the air within the balloon continues with its activities. Well, I guess the simile stops there, but without the person's interference. What's going on in the balloon had nothing to do with the person who blew the air in the balloon. So in the same way, although all living entities are within Krishna, they are dependent on Krishna, they are supported by Krishna, yet, this is amazing. Nevertheless, they can act independently within the balloon, within the sky. The wind blows within the sky, within the compass of the sky. The sky has a limited expanse, so the wind blows within, but the way it blows has nothing to do with the sky. You follow? Just like, even though we are dependent, we are dependent on God, we are within God, we are supported by Him, 9.5, Bhuta Brindacha Bhutasto, Bhuta Bhavanaha, yes, but yet still we are independent. That's amazing. That's Achintya Bheda. How can one be dependent and still act independently? This is Achintya. This is real Achintya. This is the you follow? This is the inconceivable. Yes, but this is nice. This is nice. This is thrilling. This is the inconceivable feature of the relationship between the Jeeves and Krishna. You have to follow. We are tiny, we are Anuatma, we are so tiny, we are dependent. Even if we want to commit nonsense, we still depend on Krishna to consent to that nonsense, to witness, to permit that nonsense. We have to be empowered for that nonsense. On our own, we cannot do the nonsense. So how much we are dependent, yet within that, we are independent because we are Tatashta. So beautiful analogy, another one I can give you, is the analogy of the upside down bowl. You take a bowl, you drink your milk in the morning. You reverse the bowl, you put it upside down. So the sky is like the upside down bowl. It contains the wind. In the same way, all created beings rest in me within the bowl. But the sky is detached from the wind. You follow? The wind, though in the skies, blows freely and independently. This is amazing. The sky only restricts only the area of the movement, not the movement itself. So in the same way, the Jeeves, totally dependent on the Lord, yet Krishna doesn't restrict his movement, even his misuse of movement, his misuse of free will. So this is beautiful. Krishna thus limits the activities of the conditioned living entities, regardless of the extent of their power. You follow? Whoever you are, regardless who you are, is going to limit your activities regardless who you are, okay? But it's going to limit your activities only to the circumference of the material world. So within the material world, you are free. And Krishna is detached from their independently enacted activities. Just like if you're in a prison house, you may have a big park to stroll about, even to play ping pong, or you may read in the library, you may play soccer. Most probably they have a soccer field or something, at least a small one. They can play ping pong, they can read, they can chat, they can do all kinds of things. Nothing to do with the prison. So within the material world, within the material sphere, I would say they are free, and Krishna is detached from their independently activities and from the reactions of their activities. 5:15. I don't accept your path, Arjuna. Nothing to do with me. I don't accept your piety. So the jiva is simultaneously fully dependent and independent of him. This is Achintya. This is Achintya Bheda. And when you want to develop Achintya Bheda, this is the good section. This section is amazing. Very deep section. You follow? Goloka?
Yeah.
So Prabhupada is saying here, I got a quote, Seattle 68. We cannot do anything without being sanctioned by the Supreme Lord. There's an English word, not even a grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. That is a fact. How one is doing nice thing and one is doing evil things if he is the order giver. That is our independence. We can take sanction from the Lord. If we want to do something evil, I cannot do it without the sanction of the Supreme. Or even if I want to do something very nice, I cannot do it without the sanction of the Supreme. So how the Lord gives a sanction? Just like a child is trying to get something from the parent, and the parent, being disgusted, gives him something. I've seen with my boy, the boy is always behind watching cartoon. On the bloody computer or my phone, is grabbing my phone. So he's nagging me day and night. Sometimes he steals my phone. I've been telling him it's a waste of time. He doesn't get the point. So finally, I'm so much sick and tired. I've got things to do. I say, okay, take the bloody phone. Because, he just nags me repeatedly.
Yeah, sometimes, people have so much information, so much Krishna consciousness, we still, they don't want to practice it. Even you tell them they know
because
everything, they don't want to do it. They're independent.
Yeah. And plus,
they're not ready to accept it.
Yeah, and plus they have a severe jaundice, We'll discuss in Upadeshamrit, they lost the taste long ago, millions of years ago. They lost the taste for Krishna. Chanting Hare Krishna, I'm sick and tired. It's boring. Reading the books, okay, let me go to the temple, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I have to go now. Because, they have no taste, and they are so much engrossed into Maya, they have a taste for Maya. So, and that's why the suffering kicks in. They have to suffer. Practically, it's sorry to say, but the suffering is the only remedy that I can think of. Because they don't get it by intelligence. They don't get it by books. They don't get it only people are suffering like hell. You have seen we're getting Ukraine people all the way to France. No, and when they speak, you listen. Because they are vegan. We're talking about suffering. We don't know what is suffering. When they come from Ukraine, no one is speaking. You start speaking, you just hear. We are nowhere near. They lost everything. They have the kid in one hand, another kid the other hand, one bag. They start from scratch. And they're still Krishna conscious. They're extremely Krishna conscious. They have seen the harsh face of Maya in real.
Did they come to France?
with, I mean, they're about to come 30, 35 again. I mean, for them, it's a bit far, but Lochanan, the TP told me we may host a few. We are trying to adjust so we can host 30, 35 of them. You know, but when you listen to them, then their Krishna consciousness has been boosted like anything, because they have seen. They have seen the earthly form of Maya in the form of war. So this is the point. Yes.
And people may ask, you know, like when people devotee, why Krishna doesn't protect his devotee? Why
Well,
do the devotees suffer?
They don't die. If you ask me, they are more Krishna conscious than me by far. They're protected. Their spiritual advancement is protected, I would say. The kids are extremely Krishna conscious because the kids have seen. So when you're going to tell them, have you seen Maya? You know, yes, I've seen. I was in Ukraine war. The kids are vegan. You know? And it's just a matter of getting them back on their feet through material amenities. But they have a first-hand experience of the material world. They have understood this world is no good. But Krishna didn't kill them. Some may have died, obviously, most probably. But, you know, Krishna must have protected their consciousness, their spiritual advancement. This is their protection. We don't forget Krishna. Some may have died, certainly. So everything depends on the Lord, yet independence is there. So now, yes.
The suffering of these devotees, they come from previous sinful activities or something?
No. Be very careful here. What is the evidence of that, Vignesh? What is the Shastric evidence to that question?
Because they're not like
Krishna mentions.
There's a verse.
Yeah, there is a verse. I think it's a 10th canto, right? Where Krishna mentions about 87th or 86th chapter.
10:14:8. Tatenu kampam susamek shamano, unyaname vatma kritam vipakam, ridvagvapu bilvidadan namaste, jivita yumukti pade sadayabak. This is Prabhupada had already gone, just gone. This is 14th chapter. He left at the end of the 13th. So it's mentioned there, the verse Brahma is speaking. He stole the goats and the cows. And he is very apologetic for one chapter. The whole 14th chapter is offering prayers of apology. And he goes on this one, someone who carries on serving you, read Bhagavad-gita with heart, words, body, then liberation becomes a rightful claim. And there it says very clearly, look it up, it's not karma. It's just your vestige, remnants of weaknesses of heart that are still in the heart lingering. Krishna is pressing on that to make sure it comes out. That is his gentle hand. You know, it is not karma. It's not karma. It is the sweet hand of the Lord. Sweet, you may say, well, Ukraine, sweet. But, you know, these devotees are getting extremely Krishna conscious.
Even if one is not like a pure devotee, still apply to them. You know,
yeah. It doesn't say pure devotee in that purport. Look it up, 10:14:8. So you can rest assured that these devotees, when they're going to leave the body, whenever it's that, you know, most probably they're going to make it, because they have seen the real life, the real face of Durga. They have seen.
So anyone who has taken shelter of Krishna is applied to them.
Yeah. Like you have your idiosyncrasy. Everyone has his own idiosyncrasies.
Sorry.
You know, everyone has his own idiosyncrasies. Or weaknesses of heart, Hridaya Dobalya. Krishna is going to address that. Even though we try to hide it to everyone, Krishna knows. So he's going to address that. Even if it takes humiliation, Krishna will address it. It's not karma. It is his intervention. So, I mean, this is mind-boggling why the whole country, there's 30,000 devotees in Ukraine, 30,000. ISKCON is roaring there, much more than France. We are cruising here. Here, I don't know if you have seen the videos, they are like, I mean, thousands of devotees chanting Hare Krishna. It's roaring. Why Krishna is touching this country?
Yeah. So
It doesn't make sense materially. But they are very advanced, very advanced, very advanced devotee. So perhaps, I don't know what's going to happen, But Krishna is his own, is Svachanda Shakti is totally independent. Totally independent. He knows what he's doing. Now, my question to you in the homework was a bit tricky. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur raises a question because Krishna, as described by an analogous example, is Asyancha Shakti or inconceivable mystic power. Hasn't his explanation made the inconceivable conceivable? He's discussed 9-4, basically the upside down ball. I gave you the wind and the sky. So now we could say, well, Vishwanath is saying, if it is conceivable now, it's no more achintya. So there's a conundrum here. I don't know if you follow. But let's see what Vignesh, you can answer, Vignesh, go ahead.
Basically thing is definitely the Krishna's potency is inconceivable, but then Krishna can reveal that potency if he is merciful to his devotee, then definitely he can at least give an indication to his devotee how like Krishna explains in Vibhuti Yoga and all that there's basically indication, and we cannot say that we cannot say that Krishna completely explains or we can completely comprehend that, but it's an indication that can help us understand his inconceivable potency. It's like I give an example of Shakachandra Nyaya, like giving an analogy of showing the moon to the branches of the tree. So it's not
Yes.
that we can completely understand, but like Krishna is giving a mundane example of a sky and the wind. Now, it is not that that example is great in a sense that we can completely explain everything, but it's an indication of how the inconceivable the potency of Krishna is.
Okay.
So
I follow you. It's not bad. So let's hear Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He's going to resolve this conundrum. Conundrum means, something difficult to understand, to explain. Then how is the Lord's mystic power inconceivable? Which he claimed to be in his statement. Pashyame Yogame Jvaram 9-4. Just see my mystic power. So now we have a conceivable example explaining his mystic power. So how is mystic power still mystic if you can conceive it? So this is the answer, beautiful answer, Vishwanath. The sky is not attached to the wind, which is contained within it. Because the sky and wind are unconscious matter, and matter doesn't form attachments. However, only in one case does the living spirit remain non-attached while living in this world and controlling it. And that is in the case of the Supreme Controller. You follow the Supreme Controller? God himself is the only person who can claim that. He's living in the world, he's controlling the world, still he remains not attached. Just like, look at us with our children. Are we attached to our children? Or are we detached from our children? We are living with our children, We are controlling our children to some extent. At the end of the day, are we attached or non-attached? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes, we are attached. But that is not the case in the case of Lord Krishna, except if you are a devotee, of course, we discussed.
Is
So,
it that
yes, sorry.
Krishna, and we say that Krishna, when he's there, is inconceivable. He doesn't have to show himself. He's not conceivable to his devotee, but he chose to be conceivable.
Exactly. Exactly. So here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he has established, I would say, the inconceivability of the supreme controllers being non-attached. He has established the inconceivability of the supreme controllers being non-attached. So the example of the non-attached sky in 9.6, just like Vignesh is saying, it's offered to in order to make people understand, to begin to understand the subject. But now Vishwanath is saying, Krishna began his explanation of his inconceivable relationship with the material world in 5.14, 5.15. Remember? I do nothing. The material nature is the doer. As Srila Prabhupada confirms in his purport to this verse, however, Krishna is nevertheless the cause of the material nature, and not a blade of glass moves without the will of the Supreme. Srila Vishwanath concludes by saying, this is Krishna's inconceivable potency, and we can only fold our hands and offer respect to his greatness. So just to recap, when we say he's not attached, means he's not attached to non-devotees. He's attached to devotees, definitely, by all means. More devotee you are, more Krishna becomes attached to you. Now, we know also that it's Advayagyan, by his Avyakta Murtina, is happening. Ashintya Shaktis are transforming, but he himself is elsewhere in Golok. I hope I did a good job to some extent. It's not an easy topic. We didn't cover much today, but what to do, right? It's quite deep. I'll tell Chandra to start out from 7 because it's already 6:09 p.m. Any questions? Goloka, you okay?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so I hope you are enjoying guitar.
Yes.
So you get ready for Bhagavatam then. All these books are meant to help us, bring us closer to Srimad Bhagavatam. Sanatana Goswami used to say, this is my only companion, Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna, thank you so much.
Thank Krishna.
And
Thank you.
if you have any questions. So now you're going to have, by the way, if you want to start reciting your shloks for these middle chapters, you're most welcome. Huh? You know, it's this way you don't lag behind.
I can do it at the end, right? After
As
all
you
the
wish.
chapters.
For you, it's piece of cake. I know you can recite in one go.
Well, it helps me
I
recollect
do one
better.
chapter.
Yeah, you have done one chapter, Goloka. Anytime you want, you just ring me and recite. And don't forget your 2 essays. For the, of course, we are just entering. It's 9th chapter. It's up to you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Take care.
There you go.
Have a nice week. Hare Krishna.